Welcome to Krachtwerk. So, not a video I'd like to make because everybody's doing this sort of thing. But I think it's important for a lot of people to understand certain things about YouTube and YouTubers and this whole ridiculous community. For a long time now, like most of people who possibly might be watching this, we've been watching the guys on YouTube, all the typical guitar guys. With the exception of a few, I think we can all clearly see the change in them during the timeline. They start out making really interesting, good videos. Usually you can see that they're trying to find their own way through something and using that opportunity to then share their information and whatever they've learned with others, which I always felt is amazing and really nice. But as always happens, very quickly things get out of hand. Suddenly certain things become the rule rather than an option. Certain way of doing things are an absolute and everybody follows and wants to follow and says that, you know, it has to be done a certain way. I mean, we all know the things that have happened in the last few years, the Tonewood and the Vintage 30 issue and the SM57, and you got to use real drums and you got to use a click track, and now you don't need to use a click track, and you know, all this kind of stuff that just keeps circulating in and out. So the reason I started a channel years ago is by trying to teach someone, you learn yourself. More importantly, nobody knows everything, so the more you find out, the more options you have. Not the more rules you have to follow, but the more options you have at your disposal. I have been playing around with music and video, and I'm a graphic designer by trade, essentially a web designer, and have always been working for big companies where I ended up having to do multiple things, from video recording to editing to movie making to and nearly every situation that I've been in has been a case where they wanted something done, but they didn't have the right equipment, they didn't have the time, they didn't have a proper studio, they didn't have proper mics, they didn't have proper software, they didn't have the funds for X, Y, and Z. So everything always had to be done a workaround, right? So basically, really used to solving problems or trying to make the most of the little that you've got by being creative, inventive, whatever. And dare I say that a lot of people that watch YouTubers and YouTube videos, which is around guitar, playing, recording, all these kind of things, are usually people that are in that same boat. You know, you're not going to get, you know, Steve Vai watching one of these YouTubers video and going, oh, that's a good idea, I think I'll do that. No, you won't, because these people are in that situation where they pretty much know most of it. They've got all the gear, they've got the money to have the gear, they've got the people around them that know. And so the idea that a noob essentially goes and says, well, this is how you do it, is just a load of BS. What is the truth is that noob has found a way to do something to a fair degree of professionality, and therefore it works, and essentially it's an option for somebody to use. Most people that watch these videos, and I'm making an assumption here, but I'm fairly confident that it's true, is that folk are in a situation where they don't have the money, they don't really have a band, they don't have a drum kit, they don't have a place where they can make noise, their local community doesn't support them, doesn't support live music, all the same scenarios that we all know about. And then by watching these videos and find a way, maybe there's an option how I can possibly record my guitar properly or get a good drum sound. Because a lot of these people, just like me, they want to make music. They don't have the option, they don't have the fame, they don't have the time, they don't have the money, they might have family, they might have financial constraints wherever they're living. They want to be able to create something. For somebody then to say, well, you can only use real drums, otherwise it's shit, or don't bother unless you use real drums, is nonsense, right? Don't use IRs, don't use amp sims. It's bullshit. If you use them, and if you just make an effort and absolutely make the most of it. I'll get into certain things, like if you want to use programmed drums, there's nothing wrong with it, because if you spend time on them, you can really make them flow. You can really make them sound good. If you have the ability, the options to record real drums, please do so, because, you know, from a absolute reality point of view, that is the best way to do things. It's the nicest way to do things. It keeps things real. But I think there's always this disconnect between reality and why people are watching and what people are trying to find out. And that is that they're trying to find alternatives because they have exhausted their options. And I personally just brought out an 8-track album, and some of it was live recorded drums, some of it was real amps, some of it's amps, and there's a whole mishmash of different things to produce something. Most of it was done out of pure necessity. I didn't have the option anymore to record real drums. I really wanted, because the style of music needed it. That also meant that a lot of things was done to, not a click track, but dare I say, to the grid. I'm saying that very loosely. And I didn't do that because I wanted to do it that way. I did it because I had no choice. And instead of me saying, well, this is not good enough, I knew that that was as much as I could do, and I brought it out because that was more important. If I said to myself, okay, I'm going to try and get a band together again and practice these songs for the next years, it would never have happened. I'm happy with what I brought out, and that's all that matters. If nobody listens to it, personally, I'm fine with it. People don't like it, personally, I'm fine with it. I needed to do it. I wanted to do it. And I think a lot of people are in that same boat. If you need to be creative, if you need to pick up a pen and pencil and a piece of paper and need to draw something, do it. If you need to make an album as shitty as it is or as good as it is, doesn't matter. Just do it. Don't fall into these internet traps where somebody says, use a click track. Don't use a click track. Use real drums. If you use real drums, you've got to mic it that way. If you don't mic it that way, it's not good enough. I mean, come on, right? The one thing that you'll notice if you look at some of the videos where the real professionals get involved, or some of the albums that have been dissected and how they were recorded, you'll realize that the pros that did it were also finding their way. The way they recorded guitars wasn't always the same. It wasn't always an SM57 in the cone, you know, and some condenser a foot away and the typical cab. It was all sorts of mishmash and attempts and trying and sheets of material over the amps and you name it. It's all been done in professional scenarios with albums that have sold gazillions. You know, the classic meme of, you know, everybody hated Woodstock because, you know, Voodoo Child wasn't played through bypass pedals. I mean, that's basically such a simple thing, but it's the truth. It's like, people will like if they like it, and they won't like it if they don't like it. But I realized another thing, which is probably more important, why this is happening, is that the guitar community and the recording community seem to be in their own echo chamber, trying to please each other. They're not trying to make music or recordings for the masses. It seems as if they're going to do this and they're going to buy a certain guitar and certain gear, because if they don't, then their peers are going to look down on them. But if you want to make music, you want people to listen to it. I don't care if another guitar guy or another recording guy listens to my music. I want people to listen to the music. So they don't know any of the gear. They don't know the processes. They don't give a shit. All they care about is, are my toes tapping or are they not? Do I want to buy this or don't I? They don't care about all the bypass pedals and which speaker was used and was it time aligned or not. So essentially what I want to say with this is do your own thing. Get as much information as you can, figure out what you want to do, and do it. And do it in the best possible way, with whatever means you can. Music is art. Art is in the eye of the beholder. art is important that the guy who makes it is happy and then hopes that the rest of the people like it and buy it. If you want to make music that you're sure somebody else will like, yeah, then by all means follow whatever template you need to follow to make that happen. But if you see music as an art form, do what you want to do, express yourself, and then be happy with the consequences. People like it, people don't like it, people flame you, they don't flame you, it doesn't matter. Which is the last thing I want to say on this. If you bring something out and somebody criticizes you, fuck it, doesn't matter, because they probably know just as little as you do. So that is my 2 pence. I'm going to try and make a series of these things, because I feel like we have reached a stalemate in the music industry, in everything really, politics, you name it. There's a stalemate where people are really sitting in, that's my cat, shame, sitting in echo chambers, and they can't get out of it. They're so afraid of their peers not agreeing with what they're doing or saying or whatever, that they just don't move forward. Anyway, that's my 2 pence. Thank you very much.